Good evening. This is the Grosse Ile Toll Bridge Commission meeting, September 17th. And we have a meeting agenda that's put out, but we'll start with a pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States of America
and to
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Christine, would you take the roll call?
I will indeed. Patrick
Here.
Smith-Power. Daryl McCartney.
Yes, here.
Chris Johnson.
Yes.
Teresa McLaughlin.
Here.
Derek. I don't see Derek at the moment. We know that Joe
He's here.
He may come back. We know that Joe Porcerelli has an excused absence tonight. And we also have our township engineer. It's Ohio.
Thank you very much. Has everybody had a chance to look at the agenda?
Yes.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No.
No.
Okay. So need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a support?
Second.
Okay. Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes. I don't believe we have any presentations tonight, so we can go through that. And we will allow public comment. I don't see anybody in the audience. Is there anybody that's hanging in a corner that wants to say something? Okay, so public comment is back. Have you had a chance to approve or review the minutes from August 20th?
Yes.
Yes.
Any changes or additions?
No.
No.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, so let's move on to the financials. Teresa? Let the record show that that Derek is here from the roll call.
Adding him.
Good evening. Included in your packets are the financial statements for the 5 months ended August 31st, 2025. So in this month, I included the balance sheet for the Toll Bridge Fund. It is its own separate fund. It's run as its own separate business. Questions were asked at the last meeting. So because it's a governmental entity, we don't refer to anything as retained earnings. Overall in our system, it's referred to as fund balance, but when we have enterprise funds, because those are like businesses, it's referred to as net position. So the net position on the first line, that's actually at the beginning of the year. So that was as of April 1st of 2025. And it is a negative $1,151,000 because for our fiscal year ended March 31st, 2025, we did not own the toll bridge, so we were not generating any income, but we did incur expenses from the time that we sold the bonds until March 31st.
What, in quick review, what were some of the basic items that were contributed to that million
Some
two?
professional services, a large, about half of that $1.1 million was to reimburse the general fund for the due diligence costs that it had incurred with engineering fees and attorney fees during the process of determining if the board was going to proceed with purchasing the toll bridge. So that was about $600,000 over the course of about 2 years. We were allowed to take that money out of the bond proceeds and reimburse the general fund. There was also, and you see it as accrued interest on the balance sheet. At the end of the year, fiscal year, I have to calculate the amount of interest on those bonds, even though the first payment's not due until April 1st of 2026. I had to calculate the amount of interest from the date of the sale of the bonds until March 31st and record that expense. So that was $119,000. So that was a good majority of the expenses. We did have to incur some expenses in order to get ready to purchase and own and operate the toll bridge on April 1st at midnight. So so then on the balance sheet, it so we had we came into the year with a deficit, but there was nothing illegal about it. We did not have to do a deficit elimination plan with the state because we had $23 million in assets and $9 million in cash. So the beginning fund balance is a negative 1.1 million. The next line where it says net revenue versus expenditures, that's the current year activity. So that's almost $1.3 million. That's the total revenues less the total expenditures. And that same number can be found on page 7 of your board packet, which is the end of the revenue and expenditure report. It's the same number. So we know everything is in balance.
Mm-hmm. I had one item that I just wanted a clarification on the MBIA. Is that Municipal Bond Insurance Association? Or what is the third line on the assets of the balance?
MBIA class?
Yeah,
That's our money market account.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So we try and keep as much of our cash in that money market account until we need to use it because of the interest rate. In most of our normal activity, we don't have a lot of excess funds, but in order to try and capture as much interest income as we can. So there was $140,000 in the actual checking account and $9,674,000 in the money market account. That's a very liquid account. We can transfer money at any time from that account to the checking account when we need it. And also when cash builds up in the checking account, the additional income we had during the free bridge closure, we move the money to that class account.
Very good. Okay.
And MBIA stands for Municipal Bond Investment or Insurance? Because I looked it up before the meeting, and it's two different acronyms. Is that a private company that holds that money for us?
It's Michigan class that holds the money.
Okay.
Okay. And just one other question under liabilities, third item, unamortized premium on bonds sold. Just trying to understand what that is.
So when the bonds were sold, they were sold at a premium, so that we got additional funds with the sale of the bonds when we got the proceeds. But because it's a bond premium under governmental accounting standards, we are required to amortize. We can't just record that as revenue when we get it. We are required to amortize it over the life of the bonds.
Yeah, very good.
So that will go down. I do the entry for that at the end of the year. That's part of my year-end close.
Very good. Other questions?
Oh,
Overview of the revenue and expenditure account. So just a reminder that the second column is the actual year-to-date account balances. The third column was the activity for the month. So the revenue was everything in the revenue was pretty standard. The expenditures were pretty standard as well. The biggest expenditure during the month was under insurance. We had to part of making sure the bridge and the property and the toll plaza are adequately insured is, we've been working with our insurance broker, and we got the excess liability policy in place, and that's when we had to pay that premium in full. And other than that, activity for the month, I said was fairly standard. So I don't know if you have questions about certain line items.
Now, that payment on the insurance, is that a quarterly, annual? What was that?
Well, for the
180?
toll bridge, we have to pay them, this year, we had to pay it in full at the beginning of the premium. Typically, what we do for the township with our commercial insurance is we pay it over 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping we can get to that after this year, so.
Is this for the term of the year?
That is for a full year, starting in September, I think.
Okay, because.
We have some different policies that have different years. Most of our insurance renews on like May 14th, but with the toll bridge, a lot of the policies went April 1st. This was paid in August, so I believe it was September 1st that it started. So it was for September 1st of 25 to September 1st of 26.
On some of these accruals, like on the premiums for the bond and for these policies, do we think for the fiscal calendar year 2026 that everything's going to be coterminous? Or do you think we're always going to have a little stagger on some of this stuff?
Typically, with the insurance, whatever is paid in, we don't do too much with prepaids. It's so that we have a full year within each year. It would just be that full amount. We typically wouldn't make the adjustment for the prepaid portion of it.
So we wouldn't prorate it for the forecast? If this
No,
goes,
we would leave whatever we paid is what the expenditure is for the year.
then part of next year also.
And then next year in September, we'll pay the next premium. So it'll still reflect a full year. So for this year, our expenditure is probably a little overstated. But then after we get past this year, it'll be a full year going forward.
Do we have an idea as far as what kind of increase it will be from year to year on this? Because this is a big number. So even if it's 4 or 5%, it'd be a big number, right? As far as
Usually when I have to estimate for the budget, I'm always, even though I think I'm going high, it ends
Right.
up being lower, just the way things have been in the industry so far. When I did the budget for the township, I had everyone put in an increase of 10%, and it ended up being like 14%. So it's really hard. They don't have the information when I'm doing the budget to give me to budget accurately, so that's why I shore everything up when I do the budget amendment.
Question. On the expenditures, the first 4 line items are well above the percent as far as the year is concerned. Was that just a miss in the forecast, or we didn't really have any information going in, and we're kind of finding our way as we go forward with this?
So that's correct. We had limited information for me to do the very first year's budget for the toll bridge. But those budget item amounts are based on the fact that we anticipated having the workers at the toll bridge as employees of the township for the minimum 90 days. So that's an estimate. That was my forecast for 90 days. So now we're almost at 180 days.
What was day one, April 1st, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And, we're still, that's one of the things we're looking at
Right. Yep.
tonight is whether we're through a staffing company, in which case, where it says staffing contract, 750,000. That was my estimate for a full year. So there's a lot of adjustments that need to made to pretty much every line item. Just because we've had the employees for a longer period of time, but we're not, the staffing contract, if that's the route that we go, it won't be for the full year.
Right.
So we can take dollars from that and move it up to the salaries and benefits.
I noticed there's a lot of overtime compared to what you were budgeting. Did that happen when the county bridge was closed?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Overtime? I
Oh,
noticed the
yeah,
overtime
that's
number
because
is
from the
quite a
bridge
bit over
closure, yes.
the budgeted amount,
Plus,
which was zero. So
they-
I'm sure during the bridge closure, you had a lot of overtime.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's where that bigger
There
number
was,
came from.
but just as a matter of practice, most of the employees have some overtime anyways because of how the shifts are. You know, they're from 2 to 10, 10 to 6, 6 to 2. But because they handle cash, they have to have a little bit of overlap in order to count their drawers when they leave and for the new person to count their drawers when they're on. So everyone pretty much has at least a quarter hour of overtime every day. And occasionally things come up where they have to work a little bit longer. That came up more when the Free Bridge was closed. And then with the people that we had working, we had a lot of part-time people working, there's no overtime there. That's where the part-time temporary, that's what that is. But if anyone worked more than 40 hours in a week, then that went into overtime. They also, because it's a 24/7 operation, and when you have holidays, if they worked on it, they got overtime for working that day. So. Any other questions?
Questions?
No.
No.
Thank
No,
you very
that's okay.
much. Thank you, good report.
That's okay. So. And then also I included, again, the invoice register, which is all the checks that were issued during the month of August for the toll bridge.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, we're into action items. First item on the list here is a staffing proposal. Derek, do you have anything that you can update us for on the status of this? And then we'll have discussion on it.
Just a couple items. The administrative secretary, administrative assistant for the township did make phone calls to all the companies that submitted proposals to make sure their proposals were still good. I believe of the 6 or 7 that we have, all but one she was able to get in contact with, that they were all, had stated that their proposals were still valid. I think she was just waiting on one more to call her back, but for your consideration tonight, I would, anticipate that all these are still, valid proposals and they're still interested in doing work with the township. I did, when I reviewed the proposals, notice that Eagle had never gotten back with us regarding, actually, I take it back. It wasn't Eagle, it was Management Recruiters of Fort Worth. They had never gotten back with us with regards to a revised proposal based upon the census information that we had passed along to them. So I did follow up with them, and they did provide to me some revised pricing for staffing with the benefits that were based upon the census information that we provided. So I'll pass that to you guys for your consideration. So if you have a chart together with different price comparisons, you are using the most accurate one. So I'll give that to you now. Other than that, I'm prepared to discuss stuff tonight. I mean, I went through the proposals. If you have any questions, be more than happy to be part of the conversation, or not. That it's up to you guys. But those are the two items that I wanted to make sure you were aware of. Okay.
Okay. Derek, what is your thought here on us moving forward? As you and I kind of talked on the side, we were thinking about maybe creating a list of 3 or 4 that we may finalize with or have interviews with, so that we can make a decision to move forward in reasonable timing.
Yeah.
So that we can be in place here certainly before the end of the year.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think that when you review the proposals, there's a number of questions that come up that we would want to sit down and talk with the vendors about. I don't know that it makes sense for us to sit down with all of these vendors, but if there's a consensus among the board members as to who we should sit down with, that would probably be helpful. I know in talking with Teresa, if there is a decision to move forward with a staffing company, the preference would be before the end of the calendar year for implementation on January 1st, just to be aware of deductibles for the employees. So from a timing standpoint, take that into consideration. I don't think, once again, there's any kind of limit on the number of entities or companies that you speak with, but hopefully we can narrow it down just in, our concern for our time, as far as limiting it to less than all of them. So that's my
Do
consideration.
you have any thoughts on which ones are most viable?
I do, but I'll let you guys have that conversation.
Let me take the first crack at it.
Oh, please do.
All right. After pouring through all the proposals, and I did a table, I did a comparison, the first thing that jumped out is, for me personally, a local company is better than one based in Texas or wherever else some of these are at. So we've got the top 3 there. MCM, Wallman, and Eagle are all Michigan-based. A couple of them are Wayne County or in the southeast Michigan area, one in Kalamazoo. Wallman's in Kalamazoo. So that's the first thing that jumps out. Second thing is that none of the top 3, although if you look at the range of their bids, none of them did an apples to apples comparison. So one included overtime, one didn't. One had one assumption, one had this. So as I looked at it, there's various burden rates that come out. Eagle had the lowest burden rate, but they also they had a higher price, but they also included some overtime. So, and they had a much more detailed spreadsheet that showed, here's the ESTA cost, which has to go into play. That's 72 hours a year that employees get now. There's overtime, whatever some assumption there is on overtime. There's the holiday pay and all that. And Eagle put all that in their bid. So I think if we send out a brief addendum to the top 3, make sure that we look at those proposals and say, okay, you missed this. We need your information here for, like MCM. You didn't put anything in for overtime. That $565,000 number is just straight time. So that's where you have to kind of understand to really get a good idea of what the best price is. The burdens are all fairly in line with what I've seen a lot in the staffing market. So that's my recommendation. I would even though dependable tree and maintenance is based in ADA, their quote came in very generic, one line item with a cost, and then they said they needed to see the age of the employees so they could do a health insurance assessment, which I think violates about several rules against doing that kind of stuff. So that's my recommendation, that we at least put a very brief clarification addendum together, send it out to MCM, Wallman, and Eagle, give them a week to 2 weeks to come back to us, and then sit down with them and have the clarification, because I think then we'll have a much better idea of what the true cost will be.
So, Chris, you wouldn't even have further discussions with Dependable Tree?
No, their number was way too high.
Is that the same for LAZ parking?
Yeah.
That's how I hit it. There is key weakness.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, LAZ parking is a big, huge conglomerate, and their overhead is probably higher, their markup's probably higher. So, for us with 11 employees, right, you want somebody, first of all, that's local, somebody that's lower overhead, somebody that can respond better, somebody that's got a presence here to understand the dynamics of it. So, I think the goal is ultimately to transition as many of the existing employees across. If that's the decision we make, we want as many of those folks to come across. So having the benefit package, having the wage scale, having, all the other items that they included in their bid, some include 401, so just to make sure they're all very clear on what they need to resubmit, I think that's probably the swiftest way we can get to a decision point.
One thing I noticed about Dependable Tree, though, is that they did have experience with bridge tending. So that didn't impress you?
No, I mean, not for almost a $300,000 difference or $200,000 difference.
Also, I believe they said they received those contracts sole sourced, which was, if I remember reading that correctly. What was it? I don't believe it was competitive bid. Do you remember, Derek?
The Bay County, or what are they, the Bay County bridges that they run?
I vaguely remember that, but I think that there are very few bridge operators in the state of Michigan that they might be one of the only vendors that provide that.
I think that in particular, they were talking about bridges in Indiana. So,
Oh, yeah, that's possible, yeah. It's a pretty unique, job, or, business to be in.
When we look at this, it seems like we're not necessarily looking to hire somebody to run the bridge for us.
Right.
We're looking for somebody to handle the personnel
Right.
and on all the issues, financial as well as other issues.
Yep,
So-
benefits.
Experience with bridge may be important, interesting, but I'm not sure it's paramount.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
yeah. Now, when I looked at it, Chris, I mean, I found some of the same things. I didn't spend too much time looking at the Texas locations, but
I didn't either.
And the burden I saw was like LAZ parking, they had like $34.20 an hour, which works out to pretty close to about 80% burden.
I didn't even get that far, so
Yeah.
I
Dependable Tree was $37 an hour, and that's about 100% burden. Eagle was 38.5% burden, or as I might call it, markup. The Wallman was 50%. The MCM was 49%, but interestingly enough, if I read that right, they were 29% if we use the existing staff.
You did, yes.
And I didn't really understand how they can do that, but that's what they said. So,
Well, there's recruitment fees, there's onboarding, training, all that
Good
stuff
point.
that they can avoid that just as the people transition, so
good point,
less markup.
yeah. So, I mean, I kind of in line with yours, what do the other two board members think about moving forward with choosing a certain number here and who?
So I'm definitely on board with 3. Also, those were my top 3 picks.
Christine?
I'm on board with that also. I did notice with Eagle, it looks like they've only been in business about 3 years.
I did notice that.
That's a great question for the clarification.
Yeah.
Call them in.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that gave me a little pause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they said they started May 2022.
Mm-hmm.
But the bigger, I guess, after looking at the bids, I think, do we all agree that there are some elements that were not, so you can get that apples to apples? What's the best way to convey kind of a simpler, this is what we need from you, very clearly outlined that says we want your straight time wage rate, we want your presumed overtime wage for whatever number of hours we would think, your ESTA costs and all the other items on there. So then we would have a much better idea of because I think they all are on par in terms of the administrative and all the response time and everything that goes into it. A couple of them are diverse suppliers. I think one's a WBE. So I don't know if the township has any requirements for diverse supplier spend or not, so that doesn't come into play. So, they all seem to have some fairly good experience and credentials. It's just, okay, how do we make sure we get the same? Because I think it would save time in the long run if we sent out some sort of a very simple addendum that said, this is what we need from you based on your bid. Here's, please provide.
Couple of things. Each one of you are going to look at this differently, and you're going to want to analyze it differently, and ask certain questions certain ways and get certain information provided to you certain ways. So if you can provide to me things that you would like to know, or in ways that you would like things to be answered, that would be beneficial to me if I reach out to them for additional information, or to provide their information in a certain way. And then also on top of that, different vendors' proposals are going to require different pieces of information.
Right.
For
Some
example,
of them, yeah.
For example, MCM, their price of $565,899 is almost close to $200,000 less than what we're doing it for right now. So where did the money go? I mean, they must not be accounting for something, because I don't even know that wage or that amount covers actually the wages, much less the benefits. And they didn't provide any kind of health care proposal, as part of their package. So what kind of health care are they providing, or have they even considered the health care? So depending upon, what their proposal looks like, I think our questions should be catered that way. In the proposal, they were asked to try to meet the wages and the benefits as close as possible to what we're currently providing to the employees. Some did a better job than others, which is, what factored into some of my, consideration of who was at the top or not. For example, Wallman did a nice job of thoroughly explaining the benefits that they're providing. I think Eagle did a nice job of that as well. And when I looked at these, I looked at the wealth of the benefit that they're providing to the employee. And we want to make sure that the employees are taken care of, that they don't see a significant drop off, at least in my opinion, in their benefits. And once again, some did better at that than others. At a fair cost, and I think Wallman and Eagle both did a nice job of, explaining the benefits, had a fair price, and the benefits were similar to what we're currently at, with some. We need some questions answered on some of those, employee cost share, things of that sort. But so I'm in alignment with kind of what you guys are mentioning, at least with Wallman and Eagle. I do have some questions about MCM's proposal and, where's the money at, so, because I don't think we want any surprises, and we want to make sure we're all on the same page about,
exactly.
What they're charging us and what we're getting for that, so.
Because who knows if they had the same holiday assumptions, who knows if they
Correct.
had, the STA, one of them had it in there, so I think the other two didn't, so it's a big.
So I think with your input to me about things you would like to have answered, and then also some questions I think that I have, we can provide those questions to these three vendors if that's a consensus, get answers, and then
Sure.
see exactly where we're at with things, and then move forward with interviews or whatever it might be, if that sounds fair.
Okay,
Do you want to set a timeline for input to you so that you can move out?
Sure. What's today? Thursday? Wednesday? By next Wednesday? Is that fair?
Let's do another, I want to add some days to it as far as, because that's assuming we don't have anything going the next 2 days. So I think probably the following Monday. So what would that be? Give us all next week.
So all of next week. So the following,
September 29th, I think.
I was going to say about the 29th.
I think that sounds good.
Well, one thing I'd like to, I guess, my experience has been you have at least a 60 to a 90-day transition. I don't know if that was even spelled out in any of the bids, so that may be, how long would it take to transition the employees? Because the goal being in one position or the other at Jan 1, right?
yeah.
So we're mid-September, right? We've basically got 110 days left in the year. Well, it's 100 days till Christmas, right? Or less than that, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Cheer up, right? So, I don't know. I just want to make sure that we have to say, okay, we need the bids back, and we need. First, the question is, how long will it take you to transition the employees? Because there is some time that takes with that as well. So,
Fortunate part is they wouldn't have to staff it up, so, you know, there'd be some time savings there. As far as healthcare is concerned, we could talk to our broker and see whether there's any complications with that or not, but
They would need probably at least 30 days.
at least 30 days. So.
Okay, well, that's a little better, yeah.
I think when we brought him on board, it was less than, 2 weeks. I think it was our transition period. 30 days, 30 weeks,
Yeah.
30 days.
Perfect.
But we,
Alright.
we moved mountains to make that happen with that timeline, so.
Eric, do you actually sign the contract? Are you the official to sign?
So the contract would go with a recommendation from you, the commission, to the board. The board would authorize it, and then either the supervisor or myself would sign it, yes.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, very good.
So looking at the timeline, if we have feedback to you by the 29th, does that give you time to work with the three firms before the next Bridge Commission meeting in October?
Possibly, I guess it depends upon the quantity, type of questions you ask and what information you're looking for.
I'm thinking you probably want to bring it to us in October if at all possible, then it would need to go to the board, and then the board needs time to act
Exactly.
on it, and then you've got, we're looking at November.
Yeah, the 15th is your next meeting, I believe, so, but then again, too, we don't want to rush things, right? So if we can move things as quickly as we can, that'd be beneficial, but also if it's gonna take a little bit of time, we're gonna have to give it its due diligence, so.
Well, the 15th is the forcing function, right? As far as we have to have our questions, we should be able to have the replies by then and a decision by then.
Well, and also, if you do want to bring them in to meet with them and speak with them, there's going to be another, you could be pushing your recommendation off into, November at that point.
Would we not think about bringing them in on the 15th?
That's possible too.
We could, an alternate would be to have a special meeting for only that purpose. So it doesn't get tied up with all of our other business.
That would be.
Yeah. And that could be ahead of another meeting, so it would, at that meeting, we could perhaps make a decision or at least think about a recommendation so we're ready to make it at the next meeting.
So so we could do, say, the 27th.
Yeah.
We have some flexibility and hold
Yeah.
it right here
Right. Exactly.
based on availability of the room.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Okay, so we're talking about Monday, the 29th. We'll have all of our comments to you. And then coming back into it. Is it possible to get things together in time for the October commission meeting? That's pushing it, yeah. That's the 15th. Maybe.
We'll see how they reply.
Yeah.
And if they come back the week of the 3rd, or by October 3rd, that's fine. If they don't come back until post the 15th,
Yeah. And we could perhaps have a special meeting after that to focus only on that and with the intent of making a decision at that meeting and recommending to the board.
To the board.
and
Maybe that's what we need to do.
Eric, do you recall when the township board meets in October, as far as what the date?
The second and fourth Monday of the month, so it'll be the 13th and the 27th.
So,
In November and December, there's only one meeting
Yeah.
of the board both those months.
so I'd recommend that we have our recommendation the week of the 20th, so they can study it and then confer on it on the 27th.
I think that sounds very,
Well, everything needs to be in a week before the meeting, doesn't it, to post?
Yeah, so for the meeting on the 27th, the agenda is set on the 20th. I'm sorry, the agenda is set on the 16th, and the information has to be in on the 20th.
So we could put a placeholder in ahead of time.
Yeah, so you'll meet on the 15th. If you could come to a conclusion at that point, we could have it on the agenda for the 16th. That wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Or have it to the agenda for the 16th, on the 16th, and then information in by the 20th, so that wouldn't be an issue.
sounds like maybe that's what, that eliminates a special meeting. It'd be on the
Yeah, on the
15th we would do
15th.
this, which might make it a long meeting, but we can do that.
Seems if you are gonna go with those 3 vendors, at least they're local, so you're not worried about
Yeah.
travel complications and stuff, so.
Okay. All right, let's plan on that. So we'll give you the information. We would ask them to be here to review it with us on the 15th at our next commission meeting. We would be prepared then to make a recommendation so the board would have it before the 20th so that they could act on it on the 27th, if everything goes right.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Comments?
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, Derek. Appreciate that. Next item is the approval of the logo design. So you have some items on that and logo competition?
I do. I'm looking at my phone because my agenda's not here, but in your packet, there was just an action item for your consideration regarding a logo design competition. We're blessed with an intern from the high school that's going to be with us through the month of May. Her name is Savannah, so she developed the flyer or the posting that was included in the packet. The question I have for you folks is, some of the local competitions that we've seen, even the municipal ones, they offered some sort of reward or, something like that to incentivize and also compensate those that, that individual or group that puts together a logo that is selected. So I think there's some placeholders there, question marks,
Be bridge passing
Right.
for a month.
I thought about that, but I was wondering, are we allowed to even do that? I don't know.
That was my question as far as compliance.
Yeah, giving
When I saw
away
the TBD on it.
Yeah, right. So the ones I've seen, are like $500 or something like that for the, cash prize or whatever for the winning individual.
That's sort of what I was thinking when I read that.
Yeah, and that could be paid, to them through our, check system or whatever, as a.
So we could do that and stay in compliance.
I think so, Teresa. Maybe you can help me out with that, but we would just have to, we'd be paying them as a vendor for their artistic services and providing that logo to us. So I would assume that's okay, even if
Correct.
they're 1099. Yeah.
What is the current logo? I'm drawing a blank. I've gone over it 100,000 times. I can't.
It's like a
see it.
black and white sketched image of the bridge with like Groseal Toll
Oh,
Bridge.
right.
Is that correct?
Yep.
It's on the pamphlets, isn't it?
But not that there's anything wrong with that logo. I think.
Rather nice, yeah.
Yeah, it is very nice. I think the flyer describes it though as, the turning of a page to a municipally community-owned bridge, versus a privately owned bridge, and, the theme being, allowing the residents to design the logo for their bridge. So that was a thought.
Okay. I would think that this would be an interesting thing with a prize, and I'm thinking the prize would go to the person who came up with the logo that was adopted by the township. Now, if the township decides to keep its own logo, then there is no winner, I guess. But I would think that if we want to do this, we might, somebody wants to make a motion to do that with a prize number attached to it, we'll entertain that.
Well, I will make the motion that we have a competition with a prize attached to it. Then I will hope and pray that that's legitimate and legal.
And a prize amount?
And, I'll say 250.
Okay.
Second.
Approved and second. Other discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I didn't mean to jump.
No, I have a question. Does the township supervisor have any like little special coins or anything to hand out to people as a thank you, or
They used to call them tokens.
tokens, or would that be another nice thing to give a winner,
The township
especially
key.
if it turns out to be a student?
Maybe we have a hat or something, I'm not sure. No coins or anything.
Oh, look,
I'm sorry.
good
That's a
point.
good idea. Maybe we should get them
Some
some.
leftover tokens from the old days. We'll have a roll of tokens buried in the desk somewhere.
They used to pass a key that
Actually,
says go
I
see the township
discovered a
on it.
roll of
Yeah,
tokens
I don't think we have any of
about
those.
6
Those are all
months
given
ago.
out.
I still have
You
mine.
know?
Change the locks. We don't have any keys left. So, but yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think we have anything. Yep. Maybe he's got some mugs that say something on them or something, but yeah.
Well, if it's legitimate, that would be a nice thing for the supervisor to have to, as a thank you.
Okay. So we have motion on the floor. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes. So you can take that recommendation back, Derek. That's approved. Thank you.
And that's a start of October 1st. Okay.
I'll let you work out the details.
Okay.
Okay. Next item is the H&H report. Maybe you can give us an update of that. Derek, you and I were both in that meeting. There's another one tomorrow, I presume?
There is, you should have all received an invite, today for those meetings. I know that, Christine, I believe, has spoken with
I did.
deputy clerk about, attendance at those meetings and open meetings and whatnot, and he didn't see a concern with that, so, I forward that to you. We have those every other Thursday, at, I believe, 9 a.m., and those are via Zoom, so obviously you can attend that way.
There was some discussion about if more than 2 of us attend, is that still legitimate without being advertised as a meeting?
So Brian didn't see an issue with it. I didn't get the reasoning from him on that. Maybe you did.
It's not our meeting.
Okay.
We're not making any decisions there. We're not running the meeting. We don't set the meeting up. So he did not see that as a violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Okay,
We're
Good.
taking in the information and
good.
So all you are welcome to attend. Were there any questions about the status report that you had upon reviewing it?
Timeline? Is this the right time to talk about the timeline they set, or
We can, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
is there any way that meeting can be brought up a week for the next one? I can't, that meeting falls exactly in time with a board meeting I attend on the same alternate Thursdays, the first and third Thursday of the month. So, please ask tomorrow in the meeting if they can,
So you asked
instead of
about,
2 weeks, have the next meeting a week from now and then start another 2-week cadence from
Okay,
there.
we can ask that. Sure. Yeah.
Oh,
So you're talking about modifying it just to.
Interesting point. The other thought I had is if it happens just before this meeting, rather than just after this meeting, we have current information at this meeting. Might be good if it, a little closer, because it's usually like maybe right after this meeting.
Okay.
Okay, just whatever we can work out.
Yeah, we could talk to him about that tomorrow morning if you guys like to.
I'll plan to be with you. Others can come in remotely, or they're gonna be there.
I was gonna participate remotely, but do you hold the meeting here?
I just pull it up on my office computer, so.
So
just a
you're
Teams
remote.
call.
Oh.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
you
last
can do
time
it
I
on your
just sat
phone,
with
you
him
can do
by
it.
his desk.
Oh, okay.
For clarity, you'd prefer to have it every other Wednesday versus every other Thursday?
No, I want it, I would like it every, like, tomorrow is the meeting which conflicts
Move it a
with
week.
my work meeting, so if you could hold the meeting tomorrow on the 19th, and then on the 25th have the next meeting, and then start the 2-week cadence, beginning on the 25th, which the next one would be,
Oh, this is October.
I get Thursday the 9th, right? So you have tomorrow's meeting on the 18th.
We'll have the next one on the 25th and the next one on the 9th, because your second is
Yeah.
your bad
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
But I was going back to, Patrick, you were saying you'd like to have these meetings on a Wednesday prior to this.
Well, not necessarily a Wednesday, just probably right now, for the last 2 times, we have the meeting and the next day is the progress meeting.
Right.
And I think it'd be better if the progress meeting were sometime
Monday-
closer to the.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Within a week, you know,
Yeah, okay.
right.
Chris, are there certain days better than others?
Any day but Thursday.
Those
Yeah.
particular Thursdays.
Well, yeah, the first and third Thursdays are a 2-hour meeting from 8 to 10 that I cannot miss, so
Okay.
that's.
So really any time other than first and third?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Thursday. Okay,
But I like the idea as far as
being a little closer, yeah, ahead of us.
first 3 days of the week.
Yeah.
Versus.
Any specific questions about the project status report, the schedule,
Yes.
any of the stuff that they have on here?
Yeah, schedule. So 2 dates slipped, date and the reason on the project utility coordination was date extended 1 month to make additional attempts with utility owners that did not respond. And there was none of that mentioned in the update report, so I'm a little, who did they reach out to? Who did not respond? How did they follow up? What is the follow-up? It seems like a very kind of vague excuse why the date slipped.
Yeah, usually that's,
Maybe that's a question for tomorrow.
it probably is, but
So please.
just
So
so
we'll
you guys
ask
know,
it?
Yeah.
usually, you know, so they'll put out a utility request, you know, for all utilities in the area for design purposes. So maybe a utility didn't respond to them, you know, about their utilities in that area. They didn't get a response from AT&T, or they didn't get a response from DT.
Which utility? Who was the contact?
Yeah.
When's the follow-up?
What's the get well plan?
You know, all these little misses and skips and delays will all stack up as we get closer to that. You know, we're 2 weeks away from the 30% completion design review milestone.
And I don't remember.
Oh, that impacts it, but
Yeah, I don't remember, Patrick, maybe you can, maybe remember better, but, certain things may not have a result on the overall schedule for the project. You know, SHPO was a good example. You know, they applied for that far in advance. There's nothing that's being held up from a design standpoint necessarily for SHPO based upon assumptions that they have regarding, you know, what that impact might be on the design. So, but once again, we can talk about that more tomorrow with them. But they didn't seem to me that SHPO was going to be any kind of issue.
Yeah, it was not on the critical path, right.
Exactly. So,
well, that's a good point. What is on the critical path? Can they delineate this to show, here's the critical path actions, and we're on track, and these are the support actions that, you know, if it slips a week or two, it's not going to impact the actual
right.
critical path items?
Yeah.
I think I know which ones they are, but it's hard to read because it's kind of all jumbled up in there.
Sure.
So,
Well, certainly our 30% contract review submittal is, and that's
It's
coming
a
up
big
right at
milestone,
the end
yeah.
of this month.
Very
and
much so.
First of next month,
I
yeah.
think when we asked them about that, they didn't see any kind of
They
concern.
thought they were still on schedule.
But
And
I do
then-
like Chris's suggestion as far as maybe we can get some clarity as defining from an engineering standpoint, what are the critical
Yes.
paths? What's the order of precedence needed?
And maybe that should be in the packet. I'm sure, they must have it. Even though it's not in our packet, they must have a critical path document.
yeah.
They can probably just identify things on their chart here that'll be there, so
Okay.
it may be that easy. One of the things I didn't see on here was a review of the 70%. There is a review of the 30%. No, there is a review of the I can take that back, there was one. It was a review of the final documents is the one I didn't see on the list. But we can talk about that tomorrow.
One other point is on the second page, they talk about state/federal funding decision. It's kind of a new topic in this, and any state or federal funding brings a whole lot of, particularly the Davis-Bacon Act and prevailing wages. So how does this, what's the proposed funding? How much?
So, the township had put in a budgetary request from the state of Michigan for, I believe, $5 million for work associated with the bridge. When we talked about it with them, they didn't have any concerns about pivoting towards prevailing wage requirements by when those decisions for state funding would arrive, which would be basically October 1st with the budget, whether there's money allocated or not. So, and the assumption there is that the $5 million would be more than what Davis-Bacon prevailing wage would require. It's also making an assumption that those state dollars would be attached to federal regulations, which might not be the case. So there's a lot of unknowns with regards to that. Number one, are we going to get the money? Number two, is it connected to federal dollars? And if so, does it bring with it Davis-Bacon? But the overall conclusion with that conversation was we're far enough back in the process with a decision point of October 1st. It won't be an issue for pivoting if we have to go that direction. So that was the nature of that conversation. So Davis-Bacon and whatnot's not unfamiliar to us. Matter of fact, Ohio's been working on a prevailing wage project from a EPA grant that we received for sanitary sewer work island-wide. Obviously, it can add to the cost of the project. But once again, I would hope that if we were awarded $5 million, that would be more than enough to be able to take care of any increased costs.
So how's that getting chased down? How does the township handle that type of very bureaucratic, very red tape laden process to work with a state or federal agency in terms of procurement of funds? Is that your job? How does that get handled here at the township?
So I have the cell phone number of both our state senator and our state rep, and we work with them directly in their offices to request those dollars as far as appropriations.
So you work in the state
and the
senator
supervisor as well. Darren Camilleri
and
Riley Linting. Yeah,
Yes.
Riley Linting has been taking the point on that budgetary request for the township. She keeps in communication with us as far as how that process is going. But obviously, with things going on up in Lansing right now, I don't know exactly if they're going to achieve that October 1st deadline. But I would assume that even if they don't, those shutdowns don't last very long. They eventually resolve themselves within a couple of months, where I don't think that H&H saw.
No, I don't think. Yeah, in terms of the timeline of the design, I don't think the Davis-Bacon wouldn't be until you start to go out for bids, and
Exactly.
it's not going to change the scope of work, right?
Right.
It's just going to change the cost.
Yeah,
So-
there are some Buy American provisions sometimes that we have to be
Yep.
aware of, which could affect a little bit of the design if, we're talking about sourcing a product that is a problem and we might not be able to get a
Structural
waiver.
steel,
So, October 1st, I think there's still plenty of time if we have to go that route, but we got a couple of different moving parts and it should clear up for us in the next couple of months, I would assume.
Okay. Thank you. One of the questions I asked in there was about the foundations of the bridge. I'll comment on that because that was provided in the packet. You see there's an old drawing of what the foundations were. That's this one. Yeah. And I notice in there that if you look at the way the foundations or the abutments are numbered, starting with 1 on the left, going to 6 on the right, but the center one is not numbered. It's called the pivot foundation. So if you see 2, 3, 4, and 5, the foundation shows that it's concrete that's poured all the way down to rock. So you can't really get better than that. So my fear of maybe having a soft foundation that we'd have to deal with are not something to worry about. The pivot foundation also goes to rock. Now, the two abutment piers, that's 1 and 6, those, if you see kind of in the middle, there's one that shows it's on piles. So there were wooden piles driven down in there. And I'm going to ask tomorrow because I'm not sure that those foundations still exist in the same manner that they're shown here, because there's been a lot of rebuild. For instance, the part on the right shows a wooden bridge coming out to the main bridge.
That's right.
And that's on all causeway, so that's something is done different. So we'll talk about if there's something new in those two. But as far as 2, 3, 4, 5, and the pivot, I think we're in great shape. And even if we do have a poured concrete on wooden piles typically, if they're submerged underneath, don't rot. They really only rot if there's air gets to them. A pile will rot at the water line typically as water goes up and down. So if it's down there below it's probably very solid still. So if it's like that, it's probably still okay. But I'm gonna ask that question tomorrow. We'll see what we can find out.
But can you ask too, if Piers 1 and 6, since they are on the causeway now, and you're right, it did show wooden bridge, so at some point between 1912, when this print was done, and today, the causeway was put in place.
Yeah.
So
And I
are
think
Piers
those-
1 and 6 part of the scope? Because they should be incorporated into the causeway versus having to re-pour any kind of a case on there.
Yeah, the scope actually, from what I can see, the assumption was that the foundations are good across the board.
Okay.
And I don't know if 1 and 6 still exist as they're shown on this
Exactly.
drawing
Okay.
or not.
Yep. All
Yeah.
right.
But in any case, I'm not worried about them. Yeah. But I just want to find out what
How
they
do
are.
we, I trust you, but how do we verify? Get
Well-
a snorkel and go down and look, I mean,
I guess if you wanted to verify that the concrete under the water is still down to rock, you'd have to excavate and dig holes and go down to it. But-
boring. I mean,
yeah.
can you please ask tomorrow? I just
Yeah.
would like to
But-
understand.
But we
if-
can see, yeah.
I
We'll
think we
talk
owe it
about
to
that
make
tomorrow.
sure that those are solid.
Right.
But your primary concerns are 1 and 6.
1 and 6, right. Yeah, all the rest of them are, there's concrete poured on rock. You can't really get better than that. So that's what I discovered there, and with a few other questions, I think we're gonna be fine, but we need to ask the questions. Next item on that.
Can you also,
Please, go ahead.
between Piers, if I remember right, going back to 1991, between Piers 4 and 5 is the section that the H. Lee White knocked in the water. In 33 years ago or something like that, I think? Labor Day weekend?
With the-
Anybody remember that?
Yes. We talked about it today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Are you talking about the 90s?
Yeah.
We talked
Yeah.
about it today.
I was going to say, maybe we could put the H. Lee White in the background of the logo, just as it goes off in the distance, right? But the question is, are those piers, were they impacted or done any repairs or updated because of that? Because if I recall, that section got, the boat came in, its bow headed to the shore on the Groseal side, and then it hit the protection pile, the ice pile or whatever they call it,
yeah, the
and then it kind of swung in. It didn't make it in time, and it tried to get to the bank, and it didn't make it in time, and then hit that section of the bridge and knocked it in the water. So did those piers get damaged? Were they inspected?
Good question.
Do we have more information? Because that's really the next, I guess, more recent engineering work that would have been done.
So have all of you had the opportunity to review the engineering report that was done prior to the purchase of the bridge? Because if you have not, you should. There's a underwater inspection that was part of that pre-purchase engineering report, which does and has an assessment of obviously all the underwater piers.
Was that part of what we received after we started this?
I
or
don't
is
know
it-
whether you have or you haven't.
That posted on the Grozo website.
The redacted version of it, yes.
Yes.
Does the redacted version have enough of that information?
It probably should, yes.
Okay.
Yep. So.
That was not available before the bridge was purchased, right?
Correct. So if you get a chance to review that, because I think it'll answer a lot of questions that you have about the condition, the age, any deficiencies, that type of thing. So,
And I believe when you read there, it'll say it was span 3 that was the one that was damaged. So that's really the second one from the right. Yeah.
And actually that one got knocked in the water twice,
Yes,
right? In
Right.
other words, it happened in the 60s and it happened again in the 90s.
yeah.
Oh, that's a bad luck span. We need to do something different on that one.
Drive fast over that span.
My sister-in-law was on that bridge when it happened.
Oh.
She saw it. She was waiting on the bridge when saw it hit, yeah.
Okay,
Is that still on the website, Derek?
should be.
It's not where we find the portal with our meeting. It's on the public
bridge.
first page, I believe.
I just want to validate.
Right there.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
these inspection reports, 1 of 3, so. For the record, it is published, everyone can read it.
I went in and double checked that compared to what Derek had given me at the start of this whole commission thing. And it's the same information as I looked at it in places. Same areas are redacted. Okay. We also had some comments on the traffic report, and I think you all saw,
Well, before we go to that,
Please.
Patrick, there was a picture of the DTE. Why was that included in our packet? For the Free Bridge?
I noticed that also.
I saw that, and the one thing I got out of that was the level of rock and what the foundations were down at the Free Bridge. Now, that's quite a distance away.
Yeah.
It gives you an idea what's down there, but I don't think it has anything to do with us.
I want to say that if you recall, maybe you guys weren't part of the conversation, but I think maybe H&H was extrapolating out the bottom conditions at the lower portion of the river to make certain conclusions about the bottom conditions in the upper part of the river. That I want to say that was the case, and why that was included.
That's more or less what I was thinking, but
They had
it's
referenced
different
that.
information.
They had
in
referenced that
different place.
before.
Yeah, I looked at it and I,
Basically, what they had sent to us is what I forwarded directly to you. So I don't know that I got much more of an explanation.
So it came from H&H.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's a good question for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I thought they referenced that was like, hey, we did some core sampling down under the Free Bridge. We expected a similar, you know, I don't. You guys are engineers. You probably know better than I do. Substrate, the river bottom, the material below is similar in makeup. I think that's probably why.
Yeah, this was part of the gas line transmission from mainland to the island that was done 3 or 4 years ago. So they ended up coring the line in the rock. So they're probably showing the rock strength and soil borings that they did, the cores they did.
Very good, thank you. Are we all set with that item?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
I said maybe it's the
I
wrong
want your input,
packet.
I don't want to skip by you. Yeah. Okay, relative to the Clark and Deeds traffic report, we discussed that also in the progress meeting last time. And the traffic report that I had sent to you all and is included in your package was sent to them, and they were really going to consider it. That's where we're at the moment. My analysis of that was, as we discussed somewhat previously, the pay-by-plate has a lot of drawbacks, probably requires us to get a third-party entity that we have to pay for.
it's not even towards a standard operating procedure.
Right.
You have to have somebody assess, is there a trailer, is there, and pay by plate doesn't take any of those.
Yeah.
It's alternate one is just too far off, with addition to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Chair.
Very good. And the second alternative was 2 pay lanes that could also be pass lanes, bridge pass lanes, and that had the longest queue. Didn't seem to be a very good alternative. The third alternative, to me, made some sense in that you have 2 pay lanes and 1 pass lane. And my tweaks on that approach is that you want to make sure that the vehicles going into the bridge pass lane do not have to cross the queue of the people standing waiting to pay in order to get over there. And that was the problem when it's on the right side. You had to find your way through that to get to that lane. And my suggestion for consideration was that we consider the pay exit lane from the island, that we convert that temporarily to a bridge pass lane and let the other 2 lanes be pay lanes. And it seems like that may work, but I throw that out as a suggestion for further input and thought. We do have to be a little concerned about 3 lanes of traffic coming out at one time, that vehicles are not interfering with each other, and you can maybe do that by staggering them so the gates don't go up at the same time. You may also be able to do something with cones where you go out a little ways and you can see what's happening. You might even consider the 2 pay lanes merging first and then merging with the pass lane a little farther down. There's a lot of details that could be worked out with that. But I'm thinking that's a way to make this work. And traffic coming in like from southbound or from northbound on Jefferson making a right turn, those that are backing up would all be in the right lane. Somebody could be on the left lane, come in, turn, and go right through the pass lane. And then if you're turning left from the north on Jefferson, you could also, if you've got a pass lane, all the queue is there, you could stay to the left and drive right through. So that's my thoughts for consideration.
So it starts by adding another booth.
You need two pay booths, yeah.
right?
So the present
So,
bridge pass lane would have to become another pay booth under this
Right.
suggestion.
so then you have 4 lanes that merge to 3 lanes that go to 4 lanes once it hits Jefferson.
Well, you would have, coming in, you see the little sketch?
Yep, I'm
Yep.
looking at it.
Okay, so coming off, you would have 2 lanes coming down. There's a pay lane and a bridge pass lane. And the pay lane would split just before the booth and give you 2 pay booths. And then merge back together as a pay lane. The bridge pass lane could just go right through.
So so this is so it's only when it's one bridge. So it looks like, based on your sketch, that you would have to come northbound on Jefferson, turn right, is the only way to get on the island. If you're coming from Detroit, you'd have to go do the Michigan turn and come back around.
No, that wasn't my intent.
Okay,
That wasn't my intent. My intent was coming, if you're turning left from Pennsylvania Avenue, coming down from Detroit direction, you could still turn left, and then you have 2 choices. One is to get into the pay side,
I
and the
see.
other is
Okay.
to just go right through the bridge pass lane.
Yeah, there's still 2 in, there's still 2 out.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just
still-
on the far
right.
right, as you approach the plaza,
It
it separates
becomes
into
2 pay lanes, right.
well, how would we work that? Because I think our property ends just right where the B and bridge starts when you call Bridge Road, right?
Yeah.
How would we work that with the city of Riverview, or is that Wayne County, or how would we have to coordinate that?
Get a little input from Derek on that, because that's an excellent question.
So that is county property. You know, what you're advocating for is the addition of an additional booth, correct?
Yes.
Which would be.
Which we would do.
Which we would do on our
Right.
property. So your involvement with the county would be what would be necessary. And then I would also suggest, like, you know, we've been looking at this this secondary lane that's closer to Jefferson, doing a paved shoulder, which checking with the county to see whether they can engineer a secondary lane through there. So that would have to be worked through with the county. So then you would have 1 into 2.
Kind of already is a ad
It
hoc
is.
secondary lane.
And
with
we maintain-
potholes.
And we maintain that gravel shoulder with the understanding that, you know, we knew people were using it for that purpose, but you could potentially have that secondary lane move farther to the east or south, whatever way you want to look at it. So you have more room there for that right-hand turn lane, so the split is farther or closer to the bridge. So
Is there any thought on the study given to, as you exit the bridge, turning right only, not even allowing, only under the one bridge scenario? When to exit the island, you have to turn right on Jefferson, and if you're going south, you have to do the Michigan turn at some point to go back down the other direction on Jefferson. It's kind of like when the railroad track was getting put in, right?
Yeah.
There was no left turn possible, so you had to turn right.
all I can tell you is that the direction that was given to Clark Dietz, I think is what it was review the traffic backups during the Wayne County bridge closure and provide suggestions on how to modify the infrastructure or the traffic patterns to alleviate, you know, traffic backups as best we can. And that's what that document was that was provided. Now, I do want to make clear that any work on the roads, any coordination with Wayne County is outside the scope of what H&H was originally, you know, contracted to do. So this might take a different direction Just understand that H&H, it's not necessarily under H&H's purview of their contract to review these things, but I think it would be doing a disservice to the community if we didn't look at these things when we have the opportunity to have the bridge closed for a period of time and work on it. So it's probably going to take a different path, but a parallel path to what we're doing.
So if action were to be, if a feasible plan were to be implemented, funding and everything identified, this would certainly need to be done while the bridge was closed for its work.
Correct.
Right now, the tentative date to close the toll bridge to do the work is June of next year.
From around there, yeah, June, July, August.
So we would have to have design approved, funding in place, everything, all the incremental work put in place, and contracts let by June of next year. Isn't even feasible to do it concurrently because of all the traffic and everything that's got to happen to redo the bridge.
Maybe, I mean, it depends upon the length of construction for the bridge. Initial estimates are 18 months. I don't know that this work would take that long.
Probably.
Yeah, less
Well,
than that.
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Look
I don't
at it,
know.
I mean.
Yeah. Depends if there's permitting and engineering review.
Well, that's what I'm saying. All that's got to get done. So at some point, you have the flexibility that says, okay, everything for my project is ready to go. What's the best window that does not interrupt the timeline of the bridge work? Because that's
Yeah, and part
certainly
of
more important.
part of it's going to be dependent upon budget availability. So
Exactly, all
I
of
mean,
that.
we won't know how much budget availability we have until we bid the bridge project to know whether we have capacity to work on toll booths and whatnot. So, yeah, there's a lot, like a lot of this. There's a lot of moving parts.
So
to
if,
this.
so ideally, when do we believe, if the bids are done, if we're going to target, say, July 1st, we're going to start work on the toll bridge, we would have to have the bids back by March, April? So
Yeah, I
that
would-
would kind of give us an idea on the funding level, so
Probably, yeah.
we basically have, pretty much October, we probably have 6 months to put a plan together.
And I don't even know what something like adding a toll booth would cost. And then, if you're talking about expanding that paved shoulder or paving that shoulder or adding a lane there, what would be involved with the county on that? I mean, there are, once again.
Yeah, that's what, I'm just trying to get kind of a high-level
Yeah.
idea of what has to happen in sequence and when it has to happen, because you don't want the work to slow down at all for the toll bridge. But if there's something that we want to do here, and there's definitely something, if there's a feasible solution, we need to work on it. But it's, like I said, we've got to have some action steps in place fairly quickly.
Yeah. I think Patrick's recommendations were forwarded to Clark Dietz. Clark Dietz was going to look at those, get back with us to say, hey, this works or this doesn't work. And then, you guys can have a conversation about, what do we think is the best option, and then start looking at design. We do have some engineering budget availability, so that shouldn't be a problem. And then figure out what an engineer's estimate is and kind of know where we're at with it. Whether we have the budget capacity once we bid the bridge work. So it's to be further discussed. I mean, there's a lot of parts to that, but
Yeah.
the sooner we can move on, the better, obviously.
Right. Something like this is not necessarily in your construction budget either, right?
No, it's not. It wasn't an
Yeah.
anticipated
So we'd have to
cost.
see if we can make that work as well.
Right, yep.
But what I can tell you, and the onus for all this is, we know that there are severe traffic backups, right?
yeah.
When the Free Bridge closes. We know that once our bridge is complete, the plan is for the Free Bridge to close for 18 months,
Talking 4 or 5 years.
So, but I guess my point being is, if we have this window of opportunity to be able to fix something that we know is going to be an issue for 18 months following the closure of the Free Bridge, we should take advantage of it if at all possible.
Yes.
I think that'll pay large dividends for the residents if we can cut down on probably the number one complaint, which is the wait times at that bridge when it becomes their only way on and off the island. So, yeah, that's something we need to work on.
I have a question too, about the traffic flow. Patrick, I really appreciated your report. Thank you very much for the work you did, and you put it in such nice, clear language. It was easy to follow. But also, I'd like to talk about the traffic pattern going south on West Jefferson and turning onto the bridge, on Bridge Road. I know there were times when there were 2 lanes that were allowed to turn left. There was some confusion over when that was permitted and when it wasn't. I assume, I don't know if that's part of the plan at all to talk about that with
Should
Clark
be.
Dietz, because that's as important as turning right from, when you're heading north on West Jefferson, is how would the flow work? Because there again, if you're gonna have that extreme left lane going eastbound as the pass lane, you need to feed your traffic in from coming southbound on Jefferson and not have a tangle there. So if possible, if we can have 2 turning lanes, I don't know if the county will go for that. You know, the 1 turning lane could be for the bridge pass turn.
And again, on a
the other
temporary basis,
on a
right?
temporary basis, but that was a point of confusion in the last closure.
You had people, sometimes police, sometimes bridge workers, everyone trying their best effort.
Right.
A lot of horns because people are turning out of what is technically
Right.
the middle lane.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think eventually, as the bridge closure went on, what allowed people to get on and off the island or onto the island as quickly as they were able to, was to have those 2 lanes. The only way that was possible was to have the police there directing traffic, because you're
Right.
departing from what the signaled and marked traffic pattern is. I think that made it far more efficient. The issue is you're not going to be able to have officers there for a year and a half.
Oh,
So, what methods are possible to take care of that, or are the traffic backups resolved with other alterations downstream from that intersection, similar to if we can get them off the island quicker by having 2 lanes almost all the way up to the plaza when they're leaving? Are you avoiding the bottleneck farther upstream, like at Meridian and Bridge, where you would see traffic backups there because people wasn't getting to the bridge, it was getting onto Jefferson after they crossed the bridge is what was backing everything up. So, it's got to be looked at it as like a whole infrastructure project, bridge and east and west of
this
it.
may be a crazy question, but did the Clark Dietz report look at the type of traffic, and was there any way to go upstream and say, listen, this is deliveries? I mean, any way that you can. The rush hours were the pain points, right? From 6 to 9, and from
No, surprisingly not.
really.
Yeah, and Clark Dietz did do, and we do have traffic records of when those bridge backups occurred and when the heavy traffic flow was. But surprisingly, real heavy from like 1 until 3, and then another small peak from 4:30 to 5:30, and then
Did they do any type of evaluation of the type of traffic from 1 to 3? I'm just
Yeah.
trying to come up with if you have a delivery coming to the, I don't know. It's just trying to reduce the number of vehicles coming onto the island is one way to help solve the problem. I don't know if there is a way, pick up garbage only from 12 a.m. till 6 a.m. That way you don't have garbage trucks. I mean,
Well, and part of that problem too is, not to get too in depth into this conversation, but part of that problem was, we have to shut the bridge down to be able to bring heavy trucks across one at a time, escorted, which would back everything up. Which presumably that wouldn't be an issue once the repairs are done of the bridge, because you don't have to stop traffic to bring the vehicles across. And I mean, it's a whole animal that one thing impacts other things, and so there's a lot to look at. But no, to answer your question, no, I don't think they looked at specifically the type of traffic, just the traffic flow. I can tell you, Maureen's a wealth of knowledge. She's there every day. She sees what's coming across, and I did notice some from the time I spent down there. But you did see a fair amount of commercial traffic.
Yeah.
Especially the time of the year that bridge was closed. You saw a lot of landscape trailers and deliveries. The community is an older community, so you maybe have less people that are working your traditional 9 to 5. So you have a lot of traffic in the middle of the day because of that. So I think there's a lot of different dynamics to this. The season, during the summer, like I said, a lot of that, the construction traffic that you have that you don't have during the wintertime. So there's a lot of points to it. And so,
Maureen, if you had a clean sheet of paper, how would you set it up? Yeah.
It's hard to determine that, you know, as Derek's talking, because it's always different. You know, I do believe that when we do have closures like that, people adjust their hours and their times that they are coming because they are trying to avoid
Yeah.
those heavy times that we usually have. So in the long run, to, you know, without a closure, I like the idea of what you talked about, the second booth, which could get people on and off quicker, just on a daily basis. Because we always have the holdup in the express lane when people do not keep their accounts up to date with the
Oh.
ones on it, even when we have the replenishment like we have right now. It's constant, you know, zero balance on people's accounts, which is low. So if they had two express lanes to move forward, that would be a definite help.
So there's another point that has nothing to do with traffic, is if there's a way for people to be told before they're ever even on the bridge, your account is not up to date, take care of that before you hit the bridge. That's a whole other way that we could help traffic flow. But also, we will have the webcam cameras going so people can take a look at how traffic looks if they have flexibility in their schedule. But I just want to go back to the Jefferson matter for a moment. If we're going to have Clark Dietz look at all of this, I think we should also look at the flow coming southbound on West Jefferson, turning onto the bridge, so that we get that right. Because I'm even thinking of, you know, during rush hour in some of the freeways, you see the lights above, which so they can make more lanes go in one direction than the other, depending on the flow during rush hour. So it could perhaps do something like that on Jefferson if the county were amenable
Yeah, and that's
to
the
making
thing.
those changes.
We'll have to get them involved in the conversation to see what they're willing to do,
Yes.
because, you know, they're not always, that's, with that being their road, they're not always willing to do certain things.
Right.
You know, obviously, if we can bring dollars to the table, sometimes that helps out. I will say that, before we conclude the conversation, we're gonna do our best to try to minimize the, you know, the time it takes to get on the bridge, but, you know, there always is that human component to my time is more valuable than yours, and, you know, I'm gonna go in this lane even though I know full well that it's for bridge pass only, and there's gonna be certain times that, and Maureen can testify to this, but, you know, we're not gonna be able to solve all of those problems, because, you know, there's free will to do what you want, and a lot of times it causes some issues up there, obviously, you know, so. Which the staff does a great job of navigating some of that, because it can be a little bit hairy at times.
You all did in the last closure. I mean, you had to jump into action fast after buying the bridge
Yeah.
to be ready for it. And I thought everybody really stepped up.
Unfortunately, we had staff up there that have been through it before, and, you know, they were very professional with, you know, dealing with it, and you know, thank goodness for them that they were experienced with that. It saved us
Yes.
on that, so.
I think you did a great job, Maureen. And as I toured there one day with her, I was in the booth, and there was a car coming through, it had a problem. You know, their pass wasn't reading, and they handled it so professionally. It was great. Did a good job.
I
Okay.
did, so Chris brought up something I thought was interesting, it would probably be a time saver, because getting off the bridges. What are everyone's thoughts where you can only turn north during that 18-month? Because there were times where people were coming south on Jefferson, turning left on there, and they'd block it.
Yep, that's why,
And,
That's
so
a thought.
because that was a bottleneck too,
Yeah.
because there's one lane to get off, and then that one lane only becomes two lanes, like right 2 or 3 car lengths from your turn point. And that's when people are going onto the shoulder, and they're starting to go through Riverview's boat launch, and, you know, just doing all kinds of crazy stuff to get around the backup. Everybody going off the island's got to turn right. And if you want to go south, either go up to Pennsylvania or do a U-turn farther up or something.
there's a couple, I think there's at least 3 turnarounds.
Yeah,
between-
yeah, it's a divide and there are turnarounds, so that could work quite well.
I mean, that's just, you know, anything to keep flow. That, you know, the fast, and if there's no hesitation to come off the island, there should be no backup whatsoever exiting the island, which helps some of that bottleneck for the people, as Christine's saying, coming from Pennsylvania to turn left and people coming from Sibley to turn right. It's just, that seems to be the bigger bottleneck, I think, more than the exit would alleviate some of that. So I don't know if it's,
But there's one less traffic cycle also.
Yeah.
Because when you're making that left off southbound Jefferson, the turn right only lane can flow versus doing a 3 cycle in V2.
Mm-hmm.
just a thought.
Thank you for that input. Okay, are we,
One last thing on
Yes.
traffic study was Maureen and Dale were kind enough to walk us around today. And one of the gates was like pinched. You could tell it was creased. And I think it was Dale brought up as far as how often somebody hits the gate. And if you look at the tag reading equipment, there's an exciter in the concrete to know when to read when the car is there. Just had we put those speed bumps out by the Free Bridge to slow that down, we or the county, it might be worthwhile to consider putting, because you're supposed to be going 5 miles an hour there anyhow, to put a speed bump in as you're approaching the gate. You have to come to almost a stop anyhow for the equipment to read that there's a vehicle there. And we might have one or less to, I don't know if you have the number of how often cars hit the gate.
No, I don't.
Okay. But the physical evidence was there that it does happen.
mm-hmm,
Also, that could help with reducing the lanes from 3 to 2 to 1. If you had to speed bump, slowing people down, since that's going to be a concern for safety.
okay. Great input. Other comments? Okay. So Chris Johnson made some suggestions, and I won't paraphrase, I'll let you comment on it.
Well, as I learned about the group and understood the dynamics of it, and even tonight we showed a little bit of it, kind of fitting into our lanes, and not that we don't, I don't want to presume anything, but and a lot of it, I guess, some of it was to avoid any of the concerns with the more than 2 people at a meeting, or if all 4 of us want to go to this meeting or that meeting. So, as we kind of fall into a rhythm here in this board, there are areas that I think we all would take the lead on, and that's what I proposed in my note, that have, kind of fits into our expertise in terms of, our career or whether our experience, or whatever it is, right? So I don't know how to formalize it. I don't know how to, but for instance, Patrick, you're a professional engineer. You have your own AE firm. You have generational
Tired,
experience.
but,
But that institutional knowledge and an understanding is going to be extremely valuable. I wouldn't presume I know enough about architectural engineering to be dangerous. I know how it fits into a schedule, and I know, some of the questions answered. But that's certainly should be your area of expertise, and that you should have, from a board perspective, I don't want to say lead, but kind of be the upfront person to challenge, to ask questions, to do what we need to do to make sure that we're moving forward. Daryl is, you had, detailed understanding of the financials. Again, I understand the balance sheet and all of this stuff, but you bring all of that experience from Microsoft and the IT side of it as well. So how that fits into the funding we talked about, how that fits in, and then that ties to what Christine's as an attorney and been on a township board before. Anything to do with administration or state and local government, I mean, that's, following up with some of our representatives, that should be, hey, I'm Christine, I'm on the Groseville Bridge Board. Come to our meeting. Let's sit down and talk about Riley or Daryl or Darren, I think. Come to our meeting. Let's see what's going on with some of that. And I feel very comfortable talking about project management and operations. That's what I've done the majority of my career. So I don't know. Again, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't mean to step on any toes. I hope I didn't. I don't think I did. But I think it really kind of helps speed up some of our process. It helps streamline some of our actions that we need to deliver. And that way we can, I would like to be able to trim as much time off of this bridge closure as possible. Maybe some of what we do, Wayne County can take at heart, and maybe they can follow steps somehow. But that's kind of the ultimate goal, is to be as effective as possible, balance transparency of the board with speed of execution. So
I liked your organizational plan a lot.
Thank you.
So I think it makes a lot of sense, and I would add something for Daryl, not just financial, but IT. After spending the morning with him, he's got wealth of expertise about how technology works, and that's a plus.
absolutely.
There we saw lots of issues today where things could flow better for the people working at the bridge, depending on, software adjustments, et cetera, and especially if there's a closure. Again, somebody who needs replenishment on a bridge pass doesn't know it till they get to the lane where they're supposed to be zooming through. Now we got a problem. So if there may be some wonderful improvements that could be made, make it easier for you, make traffic flow better, and make the residents happier.
Send them a text message to their phone.
Before they ever get there, yeah.
Or send it out on code red or what? Hey, these
Yeah.
5 people are low on the tank. So
There's a lot to be learned. I mean, Maureen and Chris and I were talking about, it's a large, point of sale system. It's just like walking up to a Kroger or Meijer. You can do self checkout with your fast pass, or you can go through and you can use your debit or credit card, and their payment card industry compliant, or you can use cash, right? So although it's a wildly complex point of sale system, at the end of the day, it is a point of sale system, and that's how we need to look at the flows, as far as just like a Walmart would look at how can we process more people to get us paid and get us through. At the end of the day, it's
Amazon on the bridge.
it's a point of sale system. And from doing this level work at a high level, first I was really impressed as far as the card swipe was taped off, right, as far as only chip reading. So I like what I saw there in terms of it'd be a next level sophistication to go around not paying. So.
Well, there's Chick-fil-A, where somebody comes down the line and says your card needs to be replenished, and here's my here's my iPad, give me your card.
But sending
Right.
emails typically are free, so for those who are subscribed for the auto, they can choose to put in their spam, or they can get it and say, oh, I do need to replenish because I'm not on auto replenish.
how many of the transponder owners are on auto replenish? How many?
85% are those that are not are very adamant they don't want to be.
No, that's all right. Yeah, I get it.
But aren't there issues sometimes? Somebody's on auto replenish, but the credit card gets canceled because it was used fraudulently, so the credit card doesn't work anymore.
Expired.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
expires.
Yeah.
I mean, there are just so many things. None of us remember all the things we have to update when we change credit cards.
Was that something you're saying?
Maureen was saying that a lot of times people will use debit cards rather than credit cards, and they might not have available money on their debit card when it goes to replenish, so then it gets declined.
Yeah.
The system that they're using down there right now is newer compared to what the Grosdale Bridge Company was using just as recently as 6 or 8 months ago. So there's been a substantial amount of work that's been necessary to, repopulate the system with new information, but also work with this new platform that we have that I don't know that we necessarily knew exactly what we were getting into when we transitioned to it, but we're coping with it. It does have some nice features that weren't available before. You never did know what your balance was, or you would have to call the office and ask what my balance is.
Exactly.
Now users actually have an account they can go to review their balance and update their information, which wasn't available before. So that's light years better than where we were in the past. But, you know, we are, not we, it's been mostly Maureen and her staff, been dealing with, you know, working some bugs out with that system, which we'll continue to do. And, you know, so that's more to come on that. So, but, you know, we're trying to understand the base capabilities right now of that system, and there very well might be the opportunity to send emails out to people when their balance gets low. But right now they're just trying to understand exactly all the reporting, you know, parameters or ability of the system, and then we could probably get into some maybe more of the suggested changes.
Walk before you run.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to walk right now. I mean, everything is functional. There's no problems there, but you know, there are some bugs that we need to get worked out, which maybe Maureen had mentioned to you.
Everything is safe, everything is secure,
Yeah.
but there's always room for improvement, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
plus
We're
one.
tweaking it. I mean,
Right.
okay, so we purchased the bridge on April 1. I think May 1st or thereabouts, maybe the 15th, that website became live. And, you know, so we're only, 6-8 months into that website now. And obviously we're trying to tweak it to make things better, but it's a process, so.
Yeah.
One of the other comments I made on that was, is it feasible to have a meeting at the bridge and still be able to, is there an alternate way we could do it, like via Facebook, or, I mean, I watch the high school football games on Facebook, somebody's cell phone, I mean, but is there a way that we could do that and still broadcast? Does the broadcast have to be real time? Can it be tape delayed?
I mean, technically, there actually is no requirement other than the township's policy to broadcast any of our meetings. So that is at the township board in the commission's discretion. I know that there's a strong desire from the township board to make sure all the meetings are televised, and they want to make sure that there's a legitimate reason if we don't. So really, that'd probably be a good question for Joe, you know, to ask him about that.
Sure.
Because once again, there is nothing other than our township policy regarding
Not
that.
so much now, but you know, as construction starts, it'd be, I think, to have the meetings closer to the work, it may be of benefit.
Yeah, and just keep in mind they have to be public though. So
Right.
any meeting that you have down there, the public have to be able to be there. So there wouldn't be the ability necessarily to maybe go into
understood.
construction zones with the residents and stuff like that. So we just have to keep that in mind.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. Just a thought.
Okay. Very good. Other thoughts on
I'm all set.
topic?
Not on this topic, and I didn't know where this fits, but as we talk about improving the bridge, right, we have, I don't know if it's appropriate to have Maureen or part of the operations people for were public comment, but she's not part public, but I don't know how we can triage, how we can prioritize improvements without having a cadence of getting feedback from the operations team as far as what's working well, what's not working well, what used to be better, stuff like that. So I don't know if we do a special invite quarterly, do we have a standing once a month, do we do a submission via email? But us getting feedback from the team that's doing the 724 is a critical component of us moving faster, prioritizing better.
Yes.
Good point.
I think maybe my suggestion on that would be have a conversation with Maureen, see what she's most comfortable with and
Okay.
what she thinks is the most efficient way to update the commission as far as, you know, operational progress, challenges, you know, status. Maybe it's a monthly report, maybe it's a quarterly report, maybe it's every meeting. I don't know, but maybe her and I will have a conversation, see what.
That sounds exactly right. Yeah.
And one other thing I'd like to mention also after getting to see the bridge today is I was struck by the low number of commercial vessels that go through I guess we haven't had a freighter for about a year. And it's a very small number with the changes at DTE and changes to the industry downriver.
Does that mean we could potentially change the requirements on the channel?
I don't
for
know, that would
Coast Guard or Army Corps of
require,
Engineers?
that would require a tremendous amount of coordination, but it is noteworthy that there's not a lot of commercial traffic going through.
Now, Maureen, was it, you opened the bridge like on the hour and a half hour, but only on demand? Is that what I remember? I can't,
So the residents can't hear you unless you're at the microphone.
yeah, come on
There we
up.
go. Come on up,
Yeah.
Maureen.
Oh,
You're part of the team.
Yeah,
You just hit that button.
Pleasure crafts have to, can go through the top of the hour and a half hour is where everybody can go through. Commercial and freighters are on demand. So, and then between 11 and 7 in the morning, so 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., they can go through at any time. So that's our slow period. So they don't have to, if it's a pleasure craft coming through, then they don't have to be at the top of the hour and a half hour.
yeah.
They just call and request the opening.
And pleasure craft, I mean, you don't open the bridge if nobody's there, right?
No,
Right.
No.
So a
So we-
pleasure craft has to call you
yes.
on the radio and they say, we're here. And then you-
Radio or
yeah,
our 24-hour number that we have posted out
Right.
there.
Very good.
Correct.
Do you have any data on the pleasure open? You said there hasn't been a commercial opening, and
I have data on all types of openings.
do you see an increase or decrease in the pleasure craft openings other than?
You can, it's seasonal, so really, our openings are March 15th through December 15th is when we will open on calls. But between December 15th through March 15th, they have to give us a 12-hour notice, all types of vehicles. We do not man our bridge house, so they just have to give us a notice.
that's good to know.
So, but if you are interested in the information that I have so far since Grosse Township took it off, I could give you a count monthly since April 1st on how many different types of boats have came through by day.
Well, the Coast Guard obviously has full rights to come out in through, or the buoy tenders and all that have to come through.
Correct. Any safety vehicle or vessels or anything like that, they can go through on demand. Anything else?
Very good.
It's interesting.
Chris?
Well, the kind of, when you talk about the toll bridge was built because it's got a center pivot and a swing for marine traffic. You reduce the amount of commercial traffic, you reduce the amount of pleasure craft to the point where maybe there's no, I'm really doing a reach here, but, does that presume that there's a change in the design criteria that maybe we don't have to have a bridge that swings? Because that's a huge maintenance cost. I don't know, all right? I'm just saying, right? It's like we're looking at the end result here. Let's go upstream and say, hey, is it feasible to even look at the commercial viability of the Trenton Channel anymore because there are no freighters going through there? So why do we have to have a deep water channel, a 35, 40-foot channel, if there's no freighters going through? Okay, so that eliminates one part of the traffic. So now you say, listen, we're going to build an opening, and at the high water mark, you're going to have 12 feet, and if it's your boat don't fit, go around.
Yeah. All I know is the waterway has the right of way.
That's a
Yes.
I know, I'm
very
trying-
high level
Yeah.
opportunity,
Yeah.
very high level coordination at all levels of government, very hard to do, just noteworthy. There's just not a lot of commercial traffic, so I don't know if that can feed into the design in any way, but
I think so long as it remains a navigable channel, you're required to have a movable bridge there. Not designating it or removing the designation as a navigable channel would take more likely an act of Congress, of federal government to do that. So unless we could do that, I think the design and we looked at this a while back, the design would have to remain as a movable bridge.
Yeah, but does it have to pivot? Does the whole bridge have to turn, right? Because when it turns, you've basically opened two channels. If you look at what happened on the Fort Street Bridge, it was a 50-50 kind of drawbridge, and then they went to a cantilever bridge. We've got the foundations, we've got the pilings, we've got the pivots. Is there a way to, instead of having that center pivot, which you're balancing, 300 foot of bridge on a pivot, you could just say, okay, I'm going to open, still let the traffic through, it's still navigable. I don't know what the cost would be. I don't know.
Yeah,
right?
you can ask tomorrow at the engineering meeting whether modifying the bridge from a swing bridge to a drawbridge or something like that is even feasible. My suspicion is that the modification away from a center pivot bridge to a different type of opening, structure would probably be greater.
Off the
in
top of
cost.
my head, sorry.
I mean, you got an engineer, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm
But I would,
not purposely ignoring Sohio. He's probably a great resource to ask that question, right?
I don't think it's going to be feasible to change the design at this point from where it's at without major modification. So cost-wise, it may be prohibitive to change it at this point.
well, the foundations that you have wouldn't necessarily support a different load.
Different logo.
Yeah.
Okay.
In addition, right now, we're fixing the bridge that we have versus that would require a new bridge. So off the top of my head, I think it's probably more costly, but it's a very interesting idea.
Yeah.
Are we, other comments on?
No. Did we take an action item as far as how to get feedback from the ops, as far as Maureen and Derek are going to get together and submit a
Yes.
proposal back to us? Was that the action item?
I think that was what Derek was suggesting, yes. One other thing here, relative to Chris Johnson's suggestions, I would like you to take a look at what he suggested and send to me your thoughts on what else you might have specific expertise in, and then we'll share that so that when issues come up, we'll know which of us to maybe take a lead or do a little research or ask for suggestions in particular matters. So let me know and we'll continue the list that Chris put together. All right, here, let me ask if anybody has any last minute comments or suggestions, starting with Daryl.
I do not.
Christine?
I do not.
Chris?
All set, thank you.
Okay. As a chairman's comment, just one thing I'd like to read through here, just to bring things into focus, make sure we maintain that, and that is the intent and purpose of this commission. And the purpose of the Toll Bridge Commission is to provide oversight of the Grosse Ile Toll Bridge operations, maintenance, and repairs. The commission shall be charged with working with the township manager in reviewing the operation of the toll bridge and making recommendations to the township board of any modifications that are in the best interest of the township residents, including, but not limited to, toll rates and staffing. Additionally, the commission shall oversee the issuance of proposals for repairs and maintenance of the toll bridge, review such proposals, and making of recommendations to the township board. Just to bring that, I think we're headed in that direction right now. And we're certainly not trying to run the bridge. We're overseeing it as indicated here in the purpose and providing input and suggestions and some direction to you based on the expertise we have and what we think is in the best interest of the township. So just bring that up. Okay, with that, are there any comments from the floor? Seeing no comments from the floor, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Second, third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate all your work here.